Hi everyone, how's everyone doing here today? Well, it's in. Unfortunately, you all know the bad news by now. Donald Trump won the election. He will now, come January, be officially the 47th president of the United States, and he got his second term. And what I checked out later this morning, after last night, I wasn't really, after hearing the news, I just kind of shut it all down because, like most people, I was pretty disgusted. But he also managed to win the popular vote, which I thought was surprising, but now he's also seems to have control of both the Senate and the House. So it's kind of like similar to 2016, minus the popular vote. He'll pretty much have free reign to do whatever he wants, and what exactly he'll do, I'm not exactly sure. I wasn't even planning on making a video, but I thought, let's talk about it briefly. Am I angry? Am I sad? Did I get all emotional? No, not really. I've tried to shy away from doing that, even though I'm kind of passionate about politics, I feel bad. I put in a lot of effort, not just for the presidential race, but for also other races that were going on. And some of those I'll talk about later, but here we are now. And yes, already some of my MAGA friends are reaching out to me to gloat and everything and stuff like that, because, I really believe that Kamala Harris was going to win. Obviously that didn't happen, so I guess I should stop being so certain. I kind of misconstrued overconfidence with certainty, but obviously I'm no Nostradamus. So where do we go from here? And the answer is really very simple. I do not have a clue. I really don't know. What can we do as voters? And the answer is not really a hell of a lot, if you think about it and stuff like that. I was talking to one friend who kind of shares my beliefs, and her feeling was, well, I just have to wait and see and hope he doesn't do something that seriously impacts me or my family. And that's kind of where we are at right now. There's been some talk about things that the GOP would want to do or intends to do, or something that Trump plans to do. As to what exactly that's going to be, I don't know. Because one, he's still a pathological liar. He says one thing and then does something entirely differently. Who knows what to believe? I never really got any solid policy issues. He would talk about the border and demonizing immigrants, and one thing they did say that was on a private recording. I don't know if it was both him and Mike Johnson, or if it was just Mike Johnson, but they want to repeal or do away with Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. So whether or not they actually do that, we'll just have to wait and see. Again, I don't want to speculate, but here's the simple message I would have for MAGA. Now, obviously, you're all having your orgasm because you won. Congratulations, you got your man back in the White House. Hip hip hooray. All right. Like I said, with some of my friends who are MAGA, I'll respond to them in kind and talk to them and, get some of their feedback. But here's the thing that pops in my head is that what happens, and I don't think it's a question of whether or not, if, I think it's definitely going to happen. It's just a question of when he does something or, that seriously impacts MAGA voters, primarily people in red states. I'll give you some certain examples. Now, these are things that have been talked about by either Trump or the GOP. So it's not like I'm just speculating or making this stuff up. But let's say, hypothetically, he does more tax cuts for the wealthy. I suppose he says it's going to be for the middle class, but I don't buy that. I'll believe that when that actually happens. When he actually puts out tax cuts that help working class people like me. But let's say he does tax cuts for the wealthy, which don't do anything for the working class, or anything beneficial. Quite the opposite. It tends to say get a negative impact. Now, some of the MAGA voters out there might be like, well, I didn't know this was going to happen. And if they're really entrenched in the cult, they're probably just going to make an excuse, or Trump will just blame someone else. So well, it's not my fault. It's because of Biden I had to do this. It's because of Kamala I had to do this. He'll make an excuse, and the cult members will just fall for it, hook, line, and sinker. They'll get right in line, because that's what they've been trained to do, being in the cult. It's just believe anything that dear old Donald says. There's no truth but what comes out of Trump's mouth. But my simple response to them would be, if Trump does tax cuts and they negatively impact you and your family, it's on you. it is on you, okay? It's not like we're at a point where you should be so surprised, all right? He did it, back in like 2017, and it negatively impacted a lot of working class people. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again. So you can't really act so surprised. Even though he said he'd leave it up to states, what if he does a nationwide abortion ban? And it's, they put more and more restrictions with, possible jail time to medical staff if they try and do an abortion, and no exceptions to rape or incest. That's already happening in some red states. I don't know specifically off the top of my head, but one example I know of in Texas, where there have already been some fatalities, where women have a pregnancy with complications and they don't get the medical treatment that they need because doctors are afraid of legal repercussions and having to potentially do jail time. There's also been, I don't know if it's Texas or a different red state, but there's been throwing around the idea of the death penalty. Anyhow, now let's say, Trump decides to put a nationwide abortion ban. And regardless of if you live in a red or a blue state, somebody in your family, your wife, your daughter, your sister, your aunt, your niece, finds herself in a pregnancy with complications. And she can't get the health care that she needs because of reasons I just explained. And she starts suffering tremendously. She bleeds out and she dies. I would never wish that on anyone, regardless. But the simple fact is, if that were to happen, as tragic as it may be, it is on you. If he does something bad that negatively impacts MAGA in any way, it will be on you. I do not count on the fact that he's suddenly going to do a 180 and, do things right. One thing I do anticipate, which I'm sure you agree with me on, he's going to do a lot of golf, and he's going to continue doing his rallies, because he likes to get his ego stroked on occasion. Let's face it, he's going to make a lot of drastic decisions, if he goes through with Project 2025, which some of you say, oh no, that's never going to happen, I wouldn't, bet on that one, okay? Again, I don't know yet. I'm just, just taking this one day at a time. But if anything bad does come of it, it is going to be on you. Yeah, he'll have his little rallies, and he'll do it in certain cities where after the rally, he won't pay the city, he'll stiff them. It's not the first time he's done that. And that'll most likely fall on the taxpayers within that city or state. Again, that's going to be on you. You knew what he was, you knew what you were getting into, you knew what you were voting for, and you voted for him anyway, because somehow you felt like he would be the better choice. Okay, you got your wish. But if something bad does happen, you don't really get the right to complain. That is my point. And like I said, there's really not a hell of a lot that voters in general can do anything about. So for me personally, I'm taking a little break from the politics, pardon some of the background noise, and what am I going to do moving forward? Well, for me personally, these are just my thoughts. There's not going to be really any political opportunities. I don't think I'm going to make as much content. I'm just, like I said, taking it one day at a time. I haven't worked out a plan. I don't want to get all emotional. I don't want to, as I'm discouraged, I'm disappointed. But I look at it as I came home and found out my house burned down. And now I don't have a place to live. And as angry or as upset as I might be, I don't feel like getting emotional. It's not going to help. It's not going to solve the problem. And I'm not going to place blame either. There's a number of reasons why we're at this point now. If you were somebody who voted but didn't volunteer, I don't hold that against you or anyone else for that matter. Okay? Some of you have busy lives. Some of you did a lot of volunteer work. I thank you for that. Unfortunately, those efforts didn't pan out, I did a lot of letter writing, a lot of postcard writing, a lot of canvassing and phone banking, and it just didn't pan out. And sadly, that happens. And you need to move on. So, my house burned down. I'll simply, go to a motel and, eventually insurance company and find a way of getting a new place and rebuilding. It's not so simple in a political environment like this when you got somebody who is in government who doesn't really know what he's doing, doesn't have the knowledge of governing, and, is probably moving more on a vendetta rather than an agenda. He said that himself. I will be your retribution. As for the MAGA that are complaining, what do you mean? He's been president for 4 years. He still doesn't know what he's doing. Honestly, If I was sitting down and I asked him if he could name the 3 branches of government and what each branch does, I doubt if he'd be able to tell me. If, back in 2016, he didn't even know what the nuclear triad was. And I doubt if he still knows. Maybe he does. I'd be damn surprised. If I gave him a pen and I said, real quick, could you do me a favor? Could you write down all the amendments in the Constitution and just briefly, not write War and Peace, but just a brief explanation of what each amendment does. First, Second Amendment, he'll probably get, maybe even the Fifth Amendment, but everything else, could he tell me what the Eighth Amendment is and does? I don't know. But I'm not the President of the United States. He is. So that's what I mean. It's like he hasn't really learned everything. He's still the same person as he was back in 16 through 20. The only difference now, we won, and we don't have another January 6th to look at. But some of the things that might happen, that did happen under his administration, hate crimes will more than likely go up. That's what I'm anticipating. And, there'll be a surge in that and other problems like that. As far as what exactly he's going to do with immigrants, is he going to really do a mass deportation? Who knows? We just have to wait and see. So for now, I can only watch and, pray for something better. Pray that things don't get too bad. And me personally, it's going to give me now some more time to focus on charity work like I used to. I'm going to donate and try and do more volunteer charity work because, as I said in previous videos, I care about people. I care about America. I'm just one man. My content alone, I have a minimal audience to get through to, so it's not like I have any great influence. And the efforts I do aren't going to make any radical change, but every little bit counts, every little bit helps. So in the end, like I said, now that Trump's back in office, I can at least say I did what I could to try and help. I can at least say, I want to do charity work and do what I can to help make a difference and encourage others to get on board too. It's fulfilling and it makes me feel like, I'm making a change. May not be a traumatic change, but it's still a change nonetheless. Even if it just helps aid one life or make one person comfortable, depending on the charity I do it for, whether it be for like homeless or hurricane relief. Yes, I donated when Helene and Milton struck. Taylor Swift gave quite a large sum of money, towards hurricane relief. Did Donald Trump give any money towards hurricane relief? To my knowledge, no. He just did the GoFundMe page. But that's not him putting money directly into it. He's expecting others to do it for him. And that tells me clearly just how much he cares about people. But of course, like I said, the MAGA cult is going to care. They're not going to believe in it. They're going to keep worshiping this guy to the end. So all we can do as individuals is do what we can in between. I could probably get more active when the midterms come, depending on, who's campaigning, who's not campaigning, and what are things we can do then to make a change and help influence things in a positive way, for the good of America. In the meantime, all we can do is wait. I know a lot of you are upset and frustrated, getting emotional. Try not to be. Try not to let it get to you. Also try to focus on your lives as well. Making the best quality of your life. I have certain friends and family that are having health issues, so I'm trying to help them as well as being a caregiver, and it is not easy. And sometimes I reach a certain breaking point emotionally, but after I get it out of my system, I try and push out and move on. Same thing with the election. Didn't get the results I wanted. It sucks. I hate it. I don't like it. But I got to put it aside and move on and see what I can do in the meantime and hope for the better moving forward. So those are my simple thoughts. Like I said, try not to spend too much time playing blame games. If you feel you didn't do enough, don't guilt trip. Don't be too hard on yourself. These things happen. Let's hope for the better, and let's work together as Americans. Because that's the real path to greatness. Not hate, but love. Not fear and anger and bigotry, but compassion, but caring. And most of all, charity. So, if you find some charity work and it gives you some peace of mind while at the same time, helping others, then it's time well spent, and I really hope it helps. If you want to leave some suggestions in the comments, by all means, I'm all ears and I'll see what I can do. If you're some MAGA that's just going to gloat and make some stupid remark, don't even bother. You want to leave a laughing emoji, be my guest. Okay? I'm not going to respond. If you're going to leave some crude, nasty comment or some smart mouth remark, trying to push my buttons, it's not going to work. I'm just going to look at it and just delete it right off the bat and not respond. I don't have time for it. Okay? I really don't. There's a lot going on and there's a lot to do down the road, and we just have, like I said, have to see how things are going forward and hope for the better. Like I said, any MAGA that gets negatively impacted, I'm not saying this to get on a high horse. I'm not saying it because I'm better. If anything, I'd be just a little bit sympathetic. Okay, but if something happened to you, whether it be related to taxes, abortion, or something else, some other drastic policy change that Trump puts into place, in the end, it is on you. That's pretty much the best way I can explain it. So, either way, thank you for watching. I really hope you understand.